Punisher. The name itself can strike terror in the hearts of criminals, and aptly so. Frank Castle truly delivered the punishments that the criminals deserved. However, as a man, his life was shaped by tragedies, one after the other. All his life he looked for peace, and yet, peace was something that fled from him. However, in one alternate timeline, Frank Castle got the peace that he so desired, and today, we will take a look at his life in that timeline, and what it took for him to get the peace that he desired for 70 long years. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Frank Castle? Queens, New York is the home of a lot of heroes and vigilantes. Frank Castle is one of them. Since his birth, Francis Castiglione was a little different from his peers. He had antisocial tendencies, which made him quite brutal. His first kill was at the tender age of 10 years old. Now, what could anyone have done to make a 10-year-old kill them? The answer is very simple. Frank witnessed a couple being killed brutally by the mafioso, and their deaths haunted him. So in a way, to avenge the couple, Frank killed the mafioso by covering him in homemade napalm and setting him ablaze. Frank's best friend, Stedman, was the first person who suggested a better coping mechanism to Frank. He told Frank to play pee-wee hockey instead to channel the rage and other emotions he felt. He was also the one who set up Frank with Maria, his wife. However, when Stedman was killed in an accident after being left by the driver and passengers of a cab, Frank went back to his old habits and killed them to avenge his friend's death. Frank later joined the Marines, and there he did amazing. He was a brave soldier, and his moral compass always pointed in the right direction. He was one of the best nippers that the team had seen. Even though his superiors did not like him that much, Frank stuck to his guns and did not stop doing the right things. He fought in the Sian Kong War and was awarded a Bronze Star, a Silver Star, and 4 Purple Hearts. However, war leaves no man even if the man leaves the war. The life that he had after returning from the war was very different from the life he had envisioned. The horrors did not leave him, and he grew distant from his family. Even though he occasionally showed signs of improvement, Frank would often relapse. Eventually, things got so bad that Maria decided to ask for a divorce on their next family trip to Central Park. However, while on that trip, before they could have this talk, the Castle family accidentally ended up being witnesses to a mafia hit. The mobsters killed Maria and their 2 kids in cold blood and fled the scene. Frank went to the police department to get justice, but as the police were integrated with the mafia, he did not get the justice he deserved. This led to the birth of the Punisher, the vigilante with a death's head skull branded on his chest, fighting a one-man war against all crimes, organized or otherwise. The tragic tale of Old Man Punisher, a life defined by loss. The life that we just described was of Frank Castle from Earth 616. If you are an avid Marvel fan, you would know that there are several alternate Earths present in the Marvel Universe, and sometimes the characters have a better life in the alternate Earths. When it came to Frank, sadly, that was not the case. His life suffered these tremendous losses in the Earth 21923 timeline as well, but that was not all. In the timeline, the Punisher got hurt even more. He has always been a character who has stood up for what is right. His legacy was being the Punisher, delivering justice. However, in this timeline, people used his namesake and ruined his legacy. Let me explain how. In this bleak reality, the villains have won the war. Red Skull is now the president of the US, and under his rule, things are very different. The majority of the superheroes had been wiped out. The last few ones who are alive are being hunted like prey. Pretty much everyone is in hiding. Logan has a run-in with Lady Deathstrike, who simply refuses to give up her vengeance against him and is willing to go as far as it takes to hurt Logan. Logan felt like wherever he went, he brought death and despair with him. It is almost like in this reality, Logan and Punisher both were on the same boat. One chased peace and death always caught up to him, while the other ended up delivering death because peace was taken away from him. In the 8th issue of Old Man Logan, when Logan meets with Jeannie, he is unable to sleep at night. The night when everything fell, every superhero died or got wiped out keeps him up at night. Jeannie used Cerebra to take Logan on a night out. She takes him to every place where the heroes made their last stand and reminds him that it is okay for him to go to bed and sleep because the night everything fell is not tonight. However, Logan does not feel quite well. In the flashbacks, we get to see Punisher fighting alongside Daredevil, Moonlight, and She-Hulk against Electro. While fighting, Kraven the Hunter sneaks up behind him and stabs him. It is assumed that Castle is dead because of this reason. However, the reality is far from it. We see Punisher return in the Old Man Logan annual. In this issue, we realize how life has changed in this bleak timeline. Things have not looked up in the slightest over the span of years. Logan did have a family. However, his wife and kid were killed by the brutal Gamma-powered gang, aptly named Hawk Gang. Understandably, Logan decided to track the group down and murder them to avenge his family's death. In an ecosystem, predators and prey have a balance. Suppose one particular species is wiped out. In a chain reaction, the whole biome crashes. It was pretty much the same way with the Hulk Gang. The Hulk Gang were hillbilly goons, and they were very messed up. However, they kept a type of order over all things that were around them. With the Hulk Gang out of the picture, a new group rose in power. This group, called the Punishers, did nothing that Frank Castle would have been proud of. They killed innocent men and kidnapped kids from the towns that were under their rule simply because they could. It was one of those intimidation tactics, and the villagers were intimidated, all right. When Logan came across a woman from one such ravaged town, he felt guilty. He felt like he was the one who caused all of this by taking out the Hulk Gang in the first place. But as Logan aptly put it, bottom feeders, when they rise in power, are extremely loud, so it did not take him a long time to track them down. The clubhouse of the Punishers was in a place called Folsom. Logan showed up at the place hoping he would be able to meet the man in charge. But life is not that simple. Upon orders from Panhead, one of the main guys of the group, the guards shot Logan. They left him for dead and took his horse. Clearly, they had no idea who this old man was. When Logan finally healed, he came face to face with Old Man Punisher. Turns out, the man who was killed by Kraven was not the original Punisher. It was a guy who really wanted to be the hero and decided to put on the garb of Punisher and take a stand against the villains. As it turns out, the Punisher stole something from Frank. Frank's memories have not been so hot over the years, and he kept a war journal that meant a lot to him. The Punisher gang took that from him, and he wanted it back, seeing the opportunity to work together. Logan explained that he had promised people from the settlements that the Punishers robbed that he would bring their kids back. Together, the two old men decided to infiltrate the clubhouse. Punisher used his guerrilla techniques and, with ease, took out all the men. Panhead, when he came face to face with Punisher, could not help fanboy a little. And honestly, the same. We would probably do that too. But what Panhead was doing was not right, and no amount of fanboying was going to cut it. Punisher and Panhead started duking it out, and even though Punisher is a master at fighting, his old age got the best of him. Panhead injured him critically, but right as he was about to finish the job that he had started, he got shot in the head. Not by Logan though, by a kid called Marcus. As Punisher and Panhead were fighting, Logan located the kids. He knew the name of Marcus because it was his mother who begged Logan to save them. He told Marcus to take the whole group and run away. When Father Punishment decided to attack Logan, Logan was understandably distracted and got preoccupied. While he was busy taking care of this guy, Marcus had gotten his hand on a gun, and this kid used it. He knew that even though he was with the heroes who had saved the previous generations, they were old, and it would have been hard for them to go against the youthful and violent Panhead. So, he did what was necessary, and right in his eyes. After Marcus gunned down Panhead, Logan rushed to Punisher's side. Frank was clearly dying, and even though Logan offered to take him and get him some help, Punisher did not want it. He had spent the last 70 years fighting, and now that his memory was failing, he just wanted one thing. He wanted his war journal, where he had kept a picture of his family. He could not remember his wife's face, and he wanted to see her. He asked Marcus to bring the book, and it turns out that Father Punishment used to preach from the journal to the Punishers. So Marcus knew exactly which one he was talking about. In his dying breath, Frank got to look at his wife's face, relive the happy memories he made with her, and he passed away on his own terms, saving his legacy as the original Punisher, the one who stood for what was right, the one who delivered justice. Even though this timeline is extremely bleak, the one thing that the Punisher got was something he had chased all his life. He got peace, and that is good enough for us. Marvelous verdict. When you have been at war with yourself for as long as Frank Castle had been, peace is something that you would seek out no matter what, even if the peace you are getting comes at the cost of your life. Frank could have saved himself, but his desire to die, looking at his wife's face, whom he could not even remember after his memory started failing him, truly begs the question of peace. Is peace something that he would have found earlier had his wife survived? Frank's demise in the first issue of Old Man Logan Annual might have been shocking for his fans, but it was the best ending we could have asked for Frank. His life was shaped by tragedy, but we can hope that in this alternate timeline, he got the happy ending he deserved, no matter how morose it may seem in our eyes. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.